So here's a question that I've been asked. Pedro applies to 4 universities. The acceptance rate for each university is 5%, 5%, 7% and 10%. And they would like to know what is the probability that Pedro gets accepted by at least one of these universities. Now first of all, we're going to consider a slightly simpler example. We're going to consider the example where there's only 2 universities, the first 2, where the acceptance rate is 5%. And we could do this with a tree diagram, but actually it's easier to think of this in another way. If we want them to be accepted by at least 1, that means the only thing we don't want is him to be rejected by both. So let's find the probability that he's rejected by both. And the probability that he's rejected by both is equal to, well, as the independent, is the probability that he's rejected by 1 multiplied by the probability that he's rejected by the other. So in this case, it's 0.95 times by 0.95, 95% times 95%. And that is equal to 0.9025. So that's the probability that he's rejected by both. So, the probability that he's accepted by at least 1 well, that is every other possibility. The probability that he's rejected by both is 0.9025. So the probability he's accepted by at least one of them is the remainder. 1 minus the 0.9025 we just worked out, which is equal to 0.0975, which is 9.75%. So there's about a 10% chance, in this case, in the simpler case where there's only 2 universities, that he'll be accepted by at least one of them. Now let's consider the more complicated example in exactly the same way. The probability that he's rejected by all 4 universities. So the probability reject by all 4. This is equal to, because again they're all independent, the probability of each of them multiplied, of each of the rejection rates multiplied together. So 0.95 times by 0.95 times by 0.93 times by 0.9. And that's equal to, let's work that out, 0.95 times 0.95 times 0.93 times 0.9. That gives us 0.7553925. So the probability that is accepted by at least 1 well, that is equal to 1 minus the probability that he's rejected by them all. So 1 minus what we just calculated, which is 0.7553925. And 1 minus that is equal to 0.244675, which is about 24.5%. So there's about a 25% chance that he will be accepted by at least one of those 4 universities that he's applying to.